June 1944, Normandy, France. Second Lieutenant James Daniels crouched behind a disabled Sherman tank, watching something that made no sense according to everything he understood about military logistics and combat mobility. A Willys MB, the small, boxy, general-purpose vehicle that everyone called a Jeep, was towing the 30-ton Sherman tank backward, away from German positions. Not pushing it with some elaborate mechanical apparatus, not using multiple vehicles connected through complex rigging, just one Jeep, 4 soldiers, steel cable, and physics that seemed impossible. The Sherman had thrown a track during the advance inland from Omaha Beach. Its crew had abandoned it under German fire. The tank sat immobilized 200 yards from American lines, too close to German positions for recovery under daylight, but too valuable to abandon permanently given the chronic shortage of armor during the Normandy breakout. The Jeep crew, led by Sergeant Robert Mitchell from Ohio, who had somehow acquired additional steel towing cable beyond standard issue, had attached the cable to the Sherman's tow points and begun pulling at 300 hours under cover of darkness. They had been working for 3 hours. The Sherman was moving, not quickly, perhaps 5 miles per hour, but it was moving. The Jeep's 4-cylinder engine, producing only 60 horsepower compared to the Sherman's 450 horsepower radial, was pulling a vehicle that weighed 15 times what the Jeep weighed. Daniels had studied mechanical engineering at Cornell before the war. The mathematics suggested this shouldn't work. The Jeep's engine wasn't powerful enough. The transmission would fail. The frame would buckle. Something would break. Nothing broke. The Jeep kept pulling. The Sherman kept moving. Think about that. A vehicle weighing 2,450 pounds empty, light enough that 4 men could flip it over manually if it rolled, was towing a 30-ton battle tank across Norman countryside in the middle of combat operations. What Daniels didn't know as he watched was that this moment was being repeated thousands of times across Normandy during June and July 1944. The Jeeps were performing tasks that military logistics manuals stated were impossible for vehicles of their size and power. That German forces observing these operations were filing intelligence reports expressing confusion about how Americans achieved such results with vehicles that appeared too small and light for the work they performed. What Daniels didn't know was that the Jeep represented something more fundamental than just clever vehicle design. It represented an entire American approach to military logistics that emphasized versatility, mass production, and distributed capability over specialized equipment, an approach that would prove more effective than German emphasis on purpose-built vehicles optimized for specific tasks. What Daniels didn't know was that by war's end, over 640,000 Jeeps would be produced, more than any other military vehicle in history. That these vehicles would serve in every theater, every climate, every terrain type. That they would perform roles ranging from reconnaissance to ambulance, to artillery tractor, to staff transport. That their ubiquity would become synonym for American logistics superiority. What Daniels didn't know was that German military analysts studying captured Jeeps would file reports stating that the vehicle's design philosophy, simple, reliable, versatile, represented approach to military logistics that Germany had never achieved despite superior engineering tradition. That Soviet forces receiving Jeeps through Lend-Lease would attempt to copy the design for post-war production, that the vehicle would become global symbol of American military power. What Daniels didn't know was that 40 years later, in 1984, he would attend a reunion of 2nd Armored Division veterans and meet former German officer who had observed Jeeps during Normandy campaign. That the German officer would tell him that watching Jeeps perform impossible tasks had taught him that American victory was inevitable because the side that could produce such vehicles in such quantities possessed industrial capacity that no amount of German tactical skill could overcome. What Daniels didn't know was that the Jeep towing the Sherman at 0300 hours on June 15, 1944, wasn't just recovering a disabled tank, it was demonstrating civilizational capacity, the ability to design, produce, and deploy hundreds of thousands of versatile vehicles that could perform tasks exceeding their specifications because American engineering emphasized reliability and simplicity over theoretical optimization. The mathematics of the Jeep were being written in towing cables, transmission gears, and steel frames across battlefields on 3 continents, and those mathematics were proving something that would reshape modern warfare. That mass-produced simplicity defeats custom-engineered complexity when simplicity can be produced in quantities that make individual capability less important than collective availability. By the time the Sherman reached American lines at 0615 hours, having been towed 200 yards in 3 hours by vehicle weighing less than the tank's main gun, Daniels understood something that would reshape his entire understanding of American military power. The side that could build vehicles capable of performing tasks that shouldn't work according to theory was the side with engineering philosophy and industrial capacity that made victory inevitable, regardless of battlefield tactics. June 1944. The Willys MB Jeep's development history, documented extensively in Willys-Overland Company archives and military procurement records, revealed design philosophy fundamentally different from European military vehicle development. The vehicle originated from US Army's 1940 requirement for light reconnaissance car. According to procurement documents preserved at National Archives, specifications called for vehicle weighing under 1,300 pounds, capable of carrying 600-pound payload with wheelbase not exceeding 75 inches and capable of maintaining 50 mph on roads. The specifications were considered impossible by most American automotive manufacturers, according to company correspondence preserved in archives. Ford's initial response, documented in procurement records, stated requirements couldn't be met simultaneously. Weight, payload, and performance specifications were mutually exclusive with available technology. Willys-Overland's chief engineer Barney Roos disagreed according to company records. His design philosophy, documented in engineering notes preserved in archives, emphasized that apparent impossibility could be overcome through ruthless simplification and optimization of every component. The resulting prototype, delivered to Army for testing in November 1940, exceeded specifications in most categories according to test reports preserved at National Archives. The vehicle weighed 2,060 pounds, 660 pounds over spec, but acceptable given performance. It could carry 800-pound payload. It achieved 65 mph top speed. Most remarkably, it demonstrated cross-country capability exceeding any military vehicle Army had tested. Test reports documented that prototype climbed 60-degree slopes, forded 18-inch water, traversed terrain that immobilized conventional vehicles, and demonstrated reliability exceeding military standards. The vehicle's four-wheel drive system, unusual for light vehicles at the time, provided traction that amazed test drivers according to reports. Army ordered 16,000 vehicles in July 1941, according to procurement records. Production began immediately. By December 1941, when America entered the war, Willys had delivered 1,500 vehicles and established production capacity of 300 vehicles daily. The production achievement, documented in company records, required revolutionary manufacturing techniques. Willys simplified the design to minimize parts count. The vehicle used approximately 3,000 components compared to 15,000 for typical automobile. Every component was designed for ease of manufacture and assembly. Ford Motor Company was brought in as secondary manufacturer in 1942, according to production records. Ford's engineers, documented in company archives, initially believed Willys' design was too simple, lacking refinement that Ford considered essential for automotive manufacturing. Ford's first production vehicles included modifications Ford engineers considered improvements. Army testing, documented in reports preserved at National Archives, showed Ford modifications reduced reliability. Ford was instructed to produce vehicles exactly matching Willys specifications without modifications. This standardization, two manufacturers producing identical vehicles, enabled parts interchangeability that proved crucial for field maintenance. June 15, 1944. Meanwhile, at Wehrmacht headquarters near Saint-Lô, Oberst Hans von Luck reviewed intelligence reports about American light vehicles his reconnaissance units had observed during first week of Normandy fighting. Von Luck's after-action report, dated June 15, 1944, preserved in German military archives, documented observations that confused German understanding of American logistics. According to the report, American forces employed small four-wheel vehicle in quantities exceeding anything German forces had witnessed. The vehicle appeared to perform multiple roles: reconnaissance, transport, communications, medical evacuation, command, and even light artillery towing. The report stated that vehicles' ubiquity suggested Americans possessed industrial capacity, enabling production of specialized equipment in quantities German forces couldn't match. Von Luck calculated, according to report, that single American division possessed more light vehicles than entire German Panzer Corps. More disturbing, according to report, was vehicles' apparent capability. Von Luck documented observing American light vehicles traversing terrain that immobilized German equivalents. The vehicles maintained surprising speed cross-country. They operated reliably despite conditions that disabled German vehicles, requiring more maintenance. Von Luck's report questioned whether American vehicle design philosophy, apparently emphasizing simplicity and mass production over specialized optimization, might be superior to German approach emphasizing engineered perfection in smaller quantities. The report noted that American forces never seemed limited by vehicle availability, while German forces constantly struggled with transportation shortages. German intelligence assessment dated June 18, 1944, preserved in archives, analyzed captured Jeep. The assessment, conducted by Wehrmacht technical staff, expressed surprise at vehicle's simplicity. According to report, vehicle lacked sophisticated components German engineers considered essential for military vehicles. Suspension was simple leaf spring design. Transmission was basic four-speed manual. Engine was conventional four-cylinder producing modest power. Yet testing documented in assessment showed vehicle performed remarkably well. The four-wheel drive system provided traction exceeding German vehicles. The high ground clearance and short wheelbase enabled traversing obstacles that stopped German vehicles. The simple design meant repairs could be performed by soldiers with minimal training using basic tools. The assessment concluded, according to archives, that American vehicle represented different design philosophy than German approach. Germans designed vehicles to maximize performance through engineering sophistication. Americans designed vehicles to maximize availability through manufacturing simplicity. In context of total war requiring hundreds of thousands of vehicles, American approach appeared more effective despite producing individually less sophisticated equipment. Meanwhile, at Willys Overland Toledo plant, production records from June 15, 1944, showed facility produced 467 Jeeps that day, working 3 shifts, 24 hours, 7 days weekly. Assembly line moved continuously. Each vehicle required approximately 2.5 hours from components to completion. Company records documented that Toledo plant employed 14,000 workers producing vehicles at rate that would total 162,000 annually from this single facility. Ford's additional production at multiple facilities would bring combined output to over 250,000 vehicles annually by 1944. Production statistics preserved in archives showed that by June 1944, combined Willys and Ford production had delivered over 360,000 jeeps to military.
Production rate was accelerating. By war's end, total would exceed 640,000 vehicles, more than double combined production of all German military vehicles of all types during entire war. July 12, 1944. Second Lieutenant James Daniels' after-action report dated July 14, 1944, preserved in 2nd Armored Division records at National Archives, documented Jeep's role during rescue operation that demonstrated vehicles' versatility under combat conditions. According to the report, Daniels' platoon was pinned down by German fire near St. Lo on July 12th. Artillery barrage had wounded 6 soldiers, requiring immediate evacuation. Conventional ambulances couldn't reach position due to terrain and ongoing fire.
Sergeant Robert Mitchell volunteered, according to report, to attempt evacuation using Jeep. Mitchell's Jeep was standard reconnaissance vehicle without medical modifications. The report stated Mitchell drove to pinned platoon position under fire, loaded 4 wounded soldiers, 2 on hood using improvised lashing, 2 in rear seat, and evacuated them to aid station 800 yards behind lines. Mitchell returned twice more, according to report, evacuating remaining wounded soldiers despite German fire that hit Jeep twice. 1 round through hood missing engine, 1 through rear body missing fuel tank. Report stated Jeep remained operational despite damage. Mitchell completed 3 evacuation runs in 14 minutes total.
Daniels' report noted that Mitchell's actions saved lives of soldiers who would have bled out before conventional ambulances could reach position. The report credited Jeep's speed, maneuverability, and durability for enabling successful evacuation under conditions that prohibited use of larger vehicles. Similar accounts appeared in after-action reports throughout 2nd Armored Division records, according to archives. Medical officers documented dozens of instances where Jeeps performed emergency evacuations when dedicated ambulances couldn't operate effectively. Battalion commanders reported using Jeeps for rapid ammunition resupply, communication relay, forward observation, and command functions that military doctrine assigned to specialized vehicles.
The pattern revealed, according to archival analysis, that Jeeps served as substitute for multiple specialized vehicle types. Single Jeep might perform reconnaissance in morning, ammunition transport at midday, medical evacuation in afternoon, and staff transport in evening. This versatility multiplied effective vehicle availability beyond what production numbers suggested. August 1944. Third Army after-action reports from August 1944, preserved in National Archives, documented how Jeeps enabled rapid pursuit that defined Patton's breakthrough across France. According to reports, Patton's advance consumed fuel faster than supply trucks could deliver it.
Standard logistics doctrine required establishing fuel depots every 50 miles to supply advancing armor. Patton's Third Army advanced 400 miles in 3 weeks, pace that should have outrun supply capacity. Jeeps solved the problem according to logistics reports. Tank units stripped Jeeps of unnecessary equipment and loaded them with 5-gallon jerry cans, each Jeep carrying 8 cans, 40 gallons total. Convoys of 30-40 Jeeps transported 1,200 to 1,600 gallons directly to advancing tanks, bypassing depot system entirely. Logistics reports documented that Jeep fuel convoys traveled faster than trucks, consumed less fuel relative to cargo delivered, and could navigate terrain that stopped larger vehicles. The improvised system kept Third Army advancing when conventional logistics would have forced operational pause. Tank commanders' reports preserved in archives praised Jeep fuel runs. One report from 4th Armored Division stated that Jeeps delivered fuel directly to tanks during combat. Drivers bringing jerry cans forward while fighting continued. This eliminated need for tanks to withdraw for refueling, maintaining momentum that German forces couldn't match. Intelligence reports from German forces opposing Third Army
captured and preserved in archives, expressed confusion about American logistics. German commanders calculated that Patton's advance should have stalled after 150 miles due to fuel shortages. Instead, advance continued at pace, suggesting Americans possessed unlimited fuel or transportation capacity exceeding German comprehension. One captured German report dated August 20, 1944, stated that American light vehicles appeared everywhere, delivering supplies, evacuating wounded, conducting reconnaissance, directing traffic, relaying communications. The report estimated Americans possessed 5 times as many light vehicles as German forces, and that this disparity explained American ability to maintain operational tempo German logistics couldn't match. September 1944. Technical analysis of Jeep design, documented in Army Ordnance Department reports preserved at National Archives, explained how vehicle achieved performance exceeding theoretical specifications. The four-wheel drive system, analyzed in September 1944 engineering assessment, distributed power to all wheels, providing traction that doubled effective capability. Report documented that Jeep could climb slopes that two-wheel drive vehicles twice as powerful couldn't ascend. The system's simplicity, transfer case, drive shafts, differentials, enabled soldiers to perform maintenance and repairs without specialized training. The power-to-weight ratio, calculated in engineering report, showed Jeep achieved performance through low weight rather than high power. The 60-horsepower engine was modest by automotive standards, but driving 2,450-pound vehicle, power-to-weight ratio exceeded heavier vehicles with more powerful engines. Report noted this approach, minimize weight rather than maximize power, enabled superior cross-country performance with reliable, simple engine. Suspension design documented in report used simple leaf springs that provided surprising capability. The springs were progressive, soft for small bumps, stiff for large impacts. Combined with short wheelbase and high ground clearance, suspension enabled traversing obstacles that immobilized sophisticated vehicles with theoretically superior suspension systems. Engineering report concluded that Jeep's design philosophy, maximize capability through simplicity and optimization rather than through complexity and power, represented approach to military vehicle design that American manufacturers executed more effectively than European manufacturers despite European tradition of automotive engineering excellence. December 1944, Bastogne. After-action reports from 101st Airborne Division's defense of Bastogne, preserved in National Archives, documented Jeep's role during siege that demonstrated vehicles' reliability under extreme conditions. According to reports, 101st Airborne was surrounded December 20–26, 1944, during Battle of Bulge. Division possessed approximately 200 Jeeps when encirclement began. These vehicles provided only motorized transport within perimeter, as German forces controlled all roads leading to Bastogne. Medical reports documented that Jeeps evacuated wounded from frontline positions to aid stations throughout siege. Snow and ice made movement difficult, but Jeeps maintained operations when German vehicles visible outside perimeter frequently stopped due to mechanical problems or inability to traverse conditions. Supply reports stated Jeeps distributed ammunition and rations within perimeter. When aerial resupply drops landed outside American lines, Jeeps conducted recovery missions to retrieve supplies before German forces could capture them. Division staff used Jeeps for command and control, visiting units, delivering orders, maintaining communication when radio failed. The reports documented that Jeeps operated continuously throughout 6-day siege, despite temperatures dropping below 0 Fahrenheit, heavy snow, and shortage of maintenance supplies. Maintenance records showed fewer than 10% of Division's Jeeps became non-operational during siege. Reliability rate exceeding that of German vehicles operating in same conditions, according to captured German maintenance reports. One after-action report from 101st Airborne Medical Officer stated that Jeeps' reliability under extreme conditions saved lives throughout siege. The report noted that German forces were similarly equipped with light vehicles, but German vehicles frequently failed in cold weather while American Jeeps continued operating. This reliability disparity, according to report, was difference between life and death for wounded soldiers requiring evacuation. Spring 1945. Soviet military evaluation of American Jeeps provided through Lend-Lease, documented in reports preserved in Russian State Military Archive, revealed Soviet recognition of vehicles' superior design. According to reports, Soviet Union received approximately 50,000 Jeeps through Lend-Lease during war. Soviet testing compared American Jeeps to Soviet Gaz-67, Soviet Union's domestic light vehicle designed to fulfill similar role. Testing report dated March 1945 stated, American Jeep demonstrated superior performance to Soviet vehicle in every measured category. Jeep's four-wheel drive system provided better traction than Gaz-67. Jeep's engine was more powerful and more reliable. Jeep's suspension handled rough terrain better. Most significantly, according to report, Jeep demonstrated reliability exceeding Soviet vehicle by substantial margin. Report documented that average Jeep operated 12,000 miles between major mechanical failures. Average Gaz-67 required major repair after 6,000 miles. Report calculated this reliability difference meant Jeeps provided twice effective availability of Soviet vehicles despite similar production numbers. Soviet engineering assessment, documented in separate report, analyzed Jeep design to understand source of superior performance. Assessment concluded that American approach ruthlessly optimize every component for reliability and manufacturability, produced vehicle that was individually simpler than Soviet design but collectively more effective. Reports stated that Soviet vehicle design emphasized performance maximization through engineering complexity. American design emphasized reliability maximization through engineering simplicity. In context of total war requiring hundreds of thousands of vehicles operating under extreme conditions with minimal maintenance, American approach proved superior according to assessment. Soviet decision to attempt copying Jeep design for post-war production, documented in planning records, revealed recognition that American design philosophy was worth emulating despite Soviet pride in engineering capabilities. May 1945. Interrogation reports from captured German officers, preserved in National Archives, provided German perspective on American Jeep's impact during war. Oberst Hans von Luch's interrogation dated May 15, 1945, included extensive discussion of American logistics superiority. According to transcript, von Luch stated that American forces possessed vehicle availability that seemed unlimited compared to German shortages. He stated every American soldier appeared to have access to motorized transport, while German soldiers frequently walked. Von Luch's testimony, recorded in transcript, attributed much of American logistics superiority to Jeep. According to interrogation record, von Luch stated that American light vehicle performed roles requiring 3 or 4 specialized German vehicles. This multiplication of capability through versatility meant Americans operated effectively with fewer vehicle types, while Germans required maintaining supply chains for dozens of specialized vehicle models. Interrogation transcript documented von Luch's assessment that Jeep represented American design philosophy, emphasizing practical effectiveness over theoretical optimization. According to testimony, German vehicles were often superior in specifications, more powerful engines, more sophisticated suspensions, better armor protection. But American vehicles were superior in availability and reliability, more vehicles delivered, fewer vehicles broken, repairs completed faster with simpler tools. Von Luck's testimony stated, according to transcript, that watching American Jeeps perform impossible tasks throughout war taught him American victory was inevitable. According to testimony, the side that could design, produce, and deploy hundreds of thousands of simple, reliable vehicles would defeat side that produced smaller numbers of sophisticated vehicles requiring extensive maintenance. Other German officer testimonies preserved in interrogation records expressed similar assessments. Multiple officers stated that American logistics, particularly vehicle availability, was more impressive than American tactics or technology. German forces could match American tactics and often possessed superior technology, but couldn't match American ability to keep forces supplied and mobile through superior logistics. Military procurement records from post-war period documented Jeep's continued production and global influence. Production continued after 1945, according to manufacturing records. Civilian versions entered production in 1946. By 1950s, Jeep had become a global vehicle, with military and civilian variants used in over 150 countries. Soviet Gaz-69,
introduced in 1953 and documented in Russian archives, copied Jeep design extensively. Chinese BJ212, introduced in 1960s, was essentially unlicensed Jeep copy. Multiple nations attempted producing Jeep variants or copies, testimony to design's effectiveness. Military adoption records showed Jeep design influenced light military vehicles worldwide. Japanese, British, French, German armies all developed vehicles following Jeep's design philosophy: simple, reliable, versatile four-wheel drive platforms produced in quantities enabling wide distribution. The vehicle's cultural impact, documented in popular culture archives, extended beyond military use. Jeep became symbol of American military power in films, literature, media. The vehicle represented American approach to problem solving: practical, simple, effective solutions produced in quantities that made individual sophistication less important than collective capability. 1984. The 2nd Armored Division reunion held in Fort Hood, Texas, in July 1984, brought together American and German veterans 4 decades after Normandy campaign. The event was documented in reunion records and published accounts. According to published proceedings, 2nd Lieutenant James Daniels, retired age 64, met Oberst Hans von Luck, retired age 72, during reunion's International Veterans Program. Their conversation, recorded by reunion organizers, addressed German perspective on American logistics during war. Von Luck's statement, recorded in proceedings, acknowledged that German forces initially underestimated American military capability. According to transcript, von Luck stated Germans believed American soldiers were undertrained and American equipment was inferior. Combat experience proved both assumptions wrong. Von Luck's testimony in proceedings focused particularly on American Jeep. According to transcript, he stated that watching Jeeps perform tasks that seemed impossible taught him American approach to military problems was fundamentally different from German approach. Germans optimized for perfection. Americans optimized for sufficiency, produced in overwhelming quantities. The transcript recorded von Luck's assessment that this philosophical difference explained ultimate outcome. According to proceedings, Von Luck stated that side that could produce 640,000 simple, reliable vehicles would defeat side that produced sophisticated vehicles in quantities an order of magnitude smaller. War wasn't decided by quality of best equipment, but by availability of adequate equipment in sufficient quantities. Daniels's response, recorded in proceedings, stated he hadn't understood during war that Jeep represented broader American advantage. According to transcript, Daniels stated he had viewed Jeep as useful vehicle without recognizing it symbolized American industrial approach, mass production of simple, reliable solutions rather than limited production of complex, sophisticated solutions. The conversation documented in proceedings concluded with von Luck's statement that Jeep taught both sides important lesson. According to transcript, in modern war,
the side that can put adequate equipment in hands of every soldier will defeat side that can put superior equipment in hands of some soldiers. Your Jeep was adequate. You had 640,000. We had sophisticated vehicles. We had too few. The mathematics determined the outcome before tactics mattered. The story of the Jeep in World War II reveals fundamental truths about military logistics, engineering philosophy, and the relationship between simplicity and effectiveness. First truth: simplicity enables reliability. The Jeep's design deliberately sacrificed sophistication for simplicity. Every component was designed to be manufacturable, maintainable, and reliable. This approach produced vehicles that worked consistently under conditions that disabled more sophisticated vehicles. Second truth: versatility multiplies capability. Single Jeep performed roles of multiple specialized vehicles. This versatility meant armies possessing adequate numbers of Jeeps effectively possessed surplus capacity across multiple mission types rather than shortages in specific categories. Third truth: availability matters more than individual performance. German vehicles often had superior specifications, more power, better armor, more sophisticated engineering. But Germans couldn't produce them in quantities matching need. Americans produced adequate vehicles in overwhelming quantities. In total war, overwhelming adequacy defeats limited superiority. Fourth truth: manufacturing philosophy shapes military capability. American emphasis on mass production through simplified design enabled creating military forces with equipment availability unprecedented in warfare. German emphasis on engineering excellence produced superior individual vehicles in quantities insufficient for needs. Fifth truth: design philosophy reflects cultural values. American Jeep embodied democratic approach, adequate capability for everyone, rather than superior capability for elite few. This philosophy extended beyond vehicles to entire American military approach and proved more effective than German hierarchical approach in context of industrialized total war. The Jeep's wartime record: 640,000 vehicles produced, serving in every theater and climate, performing tasks ranging from reconnaissance to ambulance to artillery tractor, demonstrated that simple, reliable tools available in vast quantities could reshape warfare more effectively than sophisticated equipment available in limited quantities. German officers observing Jeeps throughout war gradually recognized that American logistic superiority stemmed from design philosophy as much as industrial capacity. The vehicle represented approach to problem solving, identify essential requirements, design simplest solution meeting those requirements, produce that solution in quantities, making individual losses irrelevant. This philosophy contradicted European military tradition, emphasizing optimization and sophistication. But it proved more effective in industrialized total war, where victory required sustaining operations across continents for years. The side that could keep forces mobile and supplied through simple, reliable logistics would defeat side whose sophisticated logistics couldn't maintain operational tempo. The Jeep taught this lesson repeatedly throughout the war. Every disabled tank towed by Vehicle 1 mounted 15th its weight. Every wounded soldier evacuated under fire, every fuel delivery maintaining armor's advance, every communication run connecting isolated units, each demonstrated that American approach worked despite violating conventional military wisdom about vehicle design. Post-war attempts to copy Jeep design, Soviet Ghazi 69, Chinese BJ212, numerous other variants, testified that lesson was learned globally. Simple, reliable, versatile vehicles produced in quantity became standard approach to military logistics worldwide. The Jeep had established new paradigm that transcended American military,
and became universal principle. James Daniels' 1984 reunion conversation with Hans von Luck, documented in proceedings, captured the essential truth both men had learned through different perspectives during war. According to transcript, their exchange concluded with mutual recognition that Jeep represented moment when warfare transformed from craft, emphasizing individual excellence, to industry emphasizing collective capability. The vehicle itself, small, simple, reliable, became symbol of that transformation, and enduring proof that in modern conflict,
the side that can produce adequate solutions in overwhelming abundance will defeat side that produces perfect solutions in inadequate quantities. The Jeep proved that mass-produced simplicity beats custom-engineered complexity when simplicity can be produced in numbers that make individual capability less important than collective availability. 40 years after watching Jeep tow 30-ton tank across Normandy battlefield, Daniels finally understood what he had witnessed that morning. Not just clever vehicle recovery, but demonstration of American industrial philosophy that would reshape modern warfare permanently. The Jeep wasn't just vehicle, it was proof that American approach to military problems, simple, reliable, abundant, would defeat German approach emphasizing sophisticated engineering in limited quantities. The mathematics written in towing cables, transmission gears and steel frames across 3 continents during 1941-1945 proved equation that determined war's outcome. Overwhelming adequacy multiplied by industrial abundance equals victory, more certain than tactical brilliance multiplied by technical sophistication.